The man just threw out the trash. Unexpectedly, he got into a big trouble. He accidentally hit the head of the stray dog. He didn't know that this heartless action would completely change the fate of this stray dog. From then on, the stray dog would follow him every day, as if he had decided that he was his master. When he saw that the man didn't want to care about him at all, the dog still didn't leave. Even if it rained heavily, he would stay at the door. Unexpectedly, he was driven out by the man again. In order not to let the stray dog run in, the man also locked the iron door. The poor dog had to hide in the trash can. He was shivering in the cold rain. The next day, after the heavy rain, the man was about to go out to throw out the trash. Suddenly, he found that the stray dog was hanging his slippers. The man was so angry that he was driven out of the house again. The dog, which had been waiting for a long time, could only hide aside. At this time, the man threw the leftovers into the trash can. The stray dog heard the movement and came to his senses immediately. He thought the man had finally figured it out. The dog ate it up immediately. The man's name is Dama. His family died in a car accident when he was a child. Since then, Dama has become lonely. He doesn't want to interact with anyone. He even greets his neighbors coldly. However, he never thought that this stray dog, which was driven away by him time and time again, would become the most important existence in his life in the future. On this day, the dog followed him as usual. After a while, Dama also stopped like usual. But then a motorcycle came in time. Suddenly, there was a loud horn behind him. Dama couldn't help but turn his head. He only saw the dog lying in the blood. When he saw the dog's miserable state, Dama just stood still for a while. Then he didn't turn his head and went home. The neighbors around him only complained that the stray dog had affected their lives. Except for this little girl, no one cares about the life and death of the stray dog. He was about to call the dog team to deal with it. Dama came out on a motorcycle. Although he didn't like the dog, he couldn't just watch it die. He carried the dog on the motorcycle. He pointed to the hospital in the eyes of many people. Fortunately, the dog was finally out of danger. But what should he do next? Dama said that the dog was not his own. He wanted to pay the bill. Unexpectedly, he was blamed by the doctor. Dama didn't want to argue with him. When he saw the dog looking at himself with a straight face, he seemed to be saying that it was impossible to get rid of him. Then the doctor began to persuade him. No matter what, he had to let Dama stay for a few more days, and he will definitely help him find an adopter. Dama had no choice but to take the dog back to the community. But the community where Dama lived strictly kept dogs. He had to wrap the dog in a sheet and take it back. He didn't know that his secret had long been exposed by the neighbor's girl. Dama and the girl kept it a secret for him. The two of them made a happy agreement. But this single man didn't know how to keep a dog. He just left it at home. But when he turned around, the dog jumped on the table and swept his dinner away. After eating, he didn't forget to show off. However, the nightmare had just begun. The more worried the neighbor was, the happier the dog cried. Dama was so busy that he kept comforting him. He just laid down and wanted to pee for a while. The dog started to bark again. He was like this all night. Dama barely closed his eyes. He finally peed for a while. The alarm clock at work rang heartlessly. I didn't expect the dog to sleep soundly, but it wasn't too late. Dama had just stepped out of the bathroom after taking a shower. He stepped on the gift that the dog had carefully prepared. However, the bigger surprise was still waiting for him. At night, Dama came home with a tired body. The scene in front of him made him completely collapse. It was also the first time that he felt the demolition ability of Labrador. This made him very angry. He was going to teach the dog a lesson, but he found that the baby was shameless. He even wanted to go for a walk. So the man had a good idea. He took the dog to the park. He saw that there was no one around and quickly untied the rope. Before the dog realized that he had been abandoned, the man ran home in one breath. However, he didn't wait for him to be happy. He only saw a mysterious little girl. He told the man to be quiet. Then, it's not hard to tell from the expression that he was very happy. In order to repay the man's abandonment, the dog took off his pants when he was the most vulnerable. He even appeared on the street. The man was helpless. He could only catch the dog with a blanket. Then he pretended to be innocent and walked home. But the next morning, Charlie was gone. The man began to look for him everywhere. He couldn't find the camp. He took the risk and climbed the snow mountain again. Finally, under the man's search, he finally found Charlie. At this time, he was sitting in front of a wooden house. He wanted to face death alone. But how could the man bear it? He held Charlie in his arms. He couldn't help crying. He kept apologizing. He had tried his best, but he still couldn't change the cruel result. Charlie couldn't respond. He had to raise his hand slowly. He made a gesture of gratitude. He didn't want to look at the man again. Finally, he died in the arms of the man. The man began to feel pain. But at this time, there was a cry in the house. The man walked into the house curiously. He found a cute puppy in the house. The man also realized this. Charlie knew that the man couldn't live without him. So he left a little Charlie for himself. He hoped to stay with the man in this way. Dogs are the simplest animals in the world. You made a careless gesture. It's enough for the dog to love you wholeheartedly.